Hello, welcome. This is Dale Callahan on here in the Ask Dr. Callahan channel. And hopefully this is the day after the eclipse. Hopefully most of you got out and got to see the eclipse. We drove to Nashville, which is a couple hours north of us, and we hung out in Nashville and saw the totality of the eclipse. It was just really cool, especially having studied a little bit. So hopefully a lot of you, I know a lot of people around the country, around the United States, got to see the eclipse, and that was awesome. We went up there and, massive traffic coming back. I think millions of people must have gone up to the Nashville area. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you saw that. You got to take part in that. But today, what we want to talk about is as you're preparing for college, for life, your high school students in particular, we talk to a lot of homeschool students with our high school math products, is what is it like in the college life and experience? You know, what's that going to be like? How do you prepare your kids for college and life, and particularly the freshman experience? Now, this is not about homeschoolers. I actually thought when we started thinking about this topic before, it was going to be about homeschoolers. But as I said in a meeting with our faculty at the School of Engineering, as we said in a meeting, the strategic planning meeting, we were talking about incoming freshmen, and that the people who are experts at this, some of our associate deans were saying that it's about what they call first-time college, first and generation college students, that college students who don't have family members that have gone to college don't really know what to expect, and they get to college and they're lost. There was some comment, homeschoolers tend to get to college and they're lost. But as I started asking around, a lot of people are just lost going on to college. So today, just this afternoon, we were welcoming our freshmen into the School of Engineering. And probably the first time, I usually don't go to those things. I'm not usually dealing with freshmen, but I went in and I talked to a lot of the freshmen that were there, where there was hundreds of freshmen there that were taking part in this event. And just talking to them and just, you got this sense of glazed over eyes. I mean, many of them, they're right on campus. It's their first time. So what are they doing there? They don't know. They're lost. And many of them were very frank about it. I have no clue what's going on. So some of them were laughing about that in the sense that they understood they didn't understand. Other ones, you just looked like they were just like, please do something. And these were not. Necessarily, I don't know whether they're homeschoolers or not. I didn't get into a lot of detail with them, but it was interesting to see that. So in the past couple of days, I've been asking a lot of people questions about what is that first time college experience? What did you experience? What impact did it have on you? And what were some of the things that came up? So some of the issues, and I'm telling you all this because I know probably many of you listening to this had a college experience. Maybe you didn't. But, and you maybe think, well, we've been through it, so our sons and daughters can go through it too. It is different. It's different today. It's always different. So what is it that makes it different? And so number one thing is what we would call pace. And so I'm giving you this of the things that you would know, just is the pace. The pace, and so I've just got some quotes here. The pace of the freshman year was brutal. I didn't know how to talk to faculty. They'll throw you off the deep end. You either learn fast or you fail. Now, so we see that over and over. And again, it doesn't matter if they're coming from a homeschool, if they're coming from a high school, if they're coming from a really college prep high school. That some of them that are coming from a really intense college prep high school can do well. But a lot of things I find that they call themselves intense college prep high schools are really just busy work high schools. So even in the homeschooling world, I'm finding a lot of these co-op things, and they pride themselves on college prep and all. And I've gone into some of them and looked at some of them. What they're really doing is just massively loading them down with busy work, but they're not really going at the true intensity of the material. So you combine a bit more intensity, or maybe a lot more intensity, depending on when you're coming from, with a faster pace, and maybe faculty who don't really care And let's just be frank, there is a certain percentage of faculty who really want to dive in and to help your students. But in a lot of ways, faculty are not necessarily rewarded for having wonderful student reviews. And in some cases, yes, they are rewarded to get rid of the riffraff. I'm not suggesting that's always the case, but there is the case that faculty aren't there to coddle in general. That's not what they're doing. And a lot of things when we see in the high school, particularly in homeschool, it's our parents and our friends that are teaching. Coddling, maybe that's a terrible word. Maybe that you find that offensive, but that's going on. Faculty in the university, that's just not, that's not what they're taken to do. And they find it, we find it offensive if you start asking us to coddle. That's not going to happen, even if the university might want some of that. So the intensity and the pace really comes at you. The second thing that really comes at you is what we might call connecting. So just some of the quotes. I did not know how to talk to faculty. Part of what we were doing today was just to make them aware that faculty are real people and that you can, to meet them and, connect the face to the name. So here's a quote that I thought was very interesting. Many students in my class would just rather get a C instead of going to talk to someone, the faculty, that might give them a chance to be an A because they found the faculty too intimidating. And then some of this quote goes on and says, I remember going up and talking to my teacher, and it was actually, they were real and they were nice and they were helpful. But a lot of times there is this intimidation factor that sets in. This is always true in authority. So if we think about, especially coming from a homeschool environment, we may think our kids are well adjusted and everything and can handle that. But you put yourself in a pressure cooker with a lot of other people, and especially sometimes very large classes with intimidating people who sometimes don't seem to have a lot of patience, which would be probably most faculty. Your desire to connect with them, or you're feeling that you can't even connect with them, sometimes it will go way down. So that's a big change. And we hear this one all of the time. And I know faculty that I work with that are great friends of mine. They really feel like they want to connect, but the situation is set up that's not what's going on. So your students are going to find a heavy duty pace. They're going to find it difficult to connect. And I know how it is. Parents will tell me all the time, well, my son or daughter connects well, or my son or daughter can handle the pace, and maybe they can. But I wouldn't be too sure of it. It's a different situation. It's a different setting. Even if you are an expert, even if you're a college faculty member, and so you live in this environment, that does not mean your son or daughter really understands and connects in the environment. So those two things are going on. The ones that seem to really get a lot of us is course function. I'm putting this under the catalog of course function. How does your course or the coursework in general function? The freshman, so I'm just looking at some quotes here. The freshman syllabus, and particularly for STEM level classes, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, it was a new experience. And this one always blows my mind because I don't know why. We do have faculty members in universities who collect homework, just not that many. I've never collected homework. I don't know why I would want to collect homework. Maybe I'm one of those people who don't care. I don't know, but that seems meaningless to collect it, to grade it. But so you'll find some faculty that do, but there is this sense that I hear from a lot of people. I'm now responsible for my homework. You mean nobody's looking over my shoulder to care whether I did it or not? And so I know a lot of faculty members who will have 2 tests. The only grade you get in the course is 2 tests, midterm and a final, and that's it. The rest is up to you. So it's just that's how the course is structured. And if you can't manage your time and have a system, you're dead. You're just, unless you're just brilliant and you understand it. But for the rest of them, they just wash right out. Making sure to write down assignments and you didn't miss anything. I heard that one a lot from a lot of different people and students. You just making sure I capture things, because that's one thing. And boy, that's a real irritant with faculty too. As I know some faculty that bury assignments inside their talk. They will do a talk and be talking on something and will throw an assignment in there. They won't ever write it on a board. They won't ever put it in a handout. They won't ever do anything. And that makes people crazy. Now, that you may consider that person crazy, and maybe they are. But making sure you capture what's important, making sure you know what the deliverables are. The no mercy, I love this quote here. There's a no mercy atmosphere. There are no excuses, and any attempt to have an excuse, there's never a good one. There is no do or do not. There is a do or do not. There is no try. And I don't know whether that's fair, but there's that attitude there. And here's another quote. They literally want you to fail. They literally want you to fail. And let me just, most of us that have had college experiences may feel, there's some faculty members that just literally want everybody to go away. And the truth be that, there are some faculty members who want to fail that half of the class. Generally speaking, the system doesn't want that, because remember, colleges, universities, we are a machine to make money. This is a business. So every person that washes out is less money in the payroll, less money to pay for, all the great things we want to do. So generally, from a high level point of view, we don't want to wash people out. But there is also, especially in freshman classes, there is, in your more intense fields, especially thinking like STEM fields, there is a washout factor. There's some number of people are going to wash out. And that's probably true in every field, but I think some of the more intensive fields, you're definitely going to find that's just built into the system. And do they have compassion? Yeah, they may have compassion for the person, but they're going to focus on their stars, and they're going to focus on the people that are the winning, and the people who try, and the people who are communicating with them. And everybody else who doesn't have that kind of gets left out in the weeds. And it doesn't mean they're not bright. It doesn't mean they're not capable. It just means that's not where they're going to focus their attention, because the university is rewarded for winners in a different model. We won't get into that. So another thing here is culture. And many of you, if you've ever been to a college classroom, you've almost guaranteed to experience the culture issue. And I don't mean what I mean is heavy accents. I think anybody who's ever been and gotten a degree or spent any time in college has had that university professor that comes in and you don't understand a word he or she said. You don't. They talk for an hour. They may even write on a board or have notes, and you're clueless. And I remember being, in a class with someone, they were recording this professor and going back and showing it to the chair of the program and playing it back, and he couldn't understand it either. But hey, that's the guy I got teaching the course. You guys deal with it. Is what he told them. You guys deal with it. But you have a lot of that. You have, because professors generally, because of the way universities operate, because the way we recruit and the way we do things, you generally are going to have people from all over the world who have accents, and they may, like I was meeting one today. He's from Belarus, and so you've got, that's how they come into the country, and they have some have strong accents. Well, a lot of them have strong accents. Couple that with large classes, heavy accent, large classes, so it's just kind of a weird culture. Now, what really happens? I was very interested to talk to one freshman student said, I know what I want to do, I know where I'm going, so I'm separated. Now, this was very interesting because he was a brand new freshman, had just arrived at the university 2 or 3 states away from home. And he said, He says, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on, but I know exactly what I'm trying to do. So I'm just intentionally separating myself from the riffraff. And I thought, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, I'm not here to find myself. Now, it's easy to be cocky or confident, however you want to view him. But it was interesting, that because the truth is, there is a lot of the culture of the university that you have kids here for the first time. They have zero responsibility to anybody else. They have, they're kind of making their own rules, and they are out to find themselves. And that culture is toxic, mixed with a lot of other things. And it's really, really easy to find yourself in a mess at a university. So it was very interesting. I did not go into any depth about what brought that to him, but I could probably guess that there's some fundamental beliefs he has there that brought him to that point. The other thing in the culture is college was drinking from a fire hose. So this is a quote when I started asking some people, is it homeschooling? Is it first-time students? So this was a quote from, and it says, college is drinking from a fire hose. Nobody is truly ready. Homeschoolers might be worse, but I think it's across the board. High school, now this is a quote I love. High school is so dumbed down that college is a shock. High school is so dumbed down that college is a shock. Now, you may find that quote offensive, but I'll make it more offensive. Homeschools tend to be so dumbed down that college is a shock. Most high schools, even some of what we might consider premier high schools, would fit in that category because there's a lot of politics that go on in high school systems, even private ones. They need certain pass rates and things like that. And to tell you the truth, a little bit of that's happening in the university these days. But this quote that high school is so dumbed down, college is a shock, it's just true for a lot of people. So now there's going to be exceptions here. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But schedules, the other thing that gets people is schedules. The schedule thing is hard. It says you now have to sign up for classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Mondays and Wednesdays at various times, being careful not to overlap, remembering the labs having their own kind of thing going on with different deadlines for assignments. And there's just so much overlap, so much things going on. In high school, even if you're in a high school system, your faculty are generally talking to each other a lot. Obviously, in the homeschool, hopefully, even with co-op classes, there's some central thought there. At a university, there's not. The faculty that you're having may not even know each other, especially at larger universities. I mean, there's a lot of the students we see, I don't have a clue who's teaching those classes. I don't know anything about them and their culture or what they believe. And we have no coordination about how things, except the beginning of a semester and the end, and that's all we coordinate on. There's all those kind of things going, just a scheduling nightmare. So all this is said, there's a whole lot here that as a parent, thinking the pace, how do you connect, how do courses function? There's a culture that you're going to get into. There's a scheduling thing. So a lot of this does depend on your path. There's no secret if you're a pre-med major or you're a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, math, it's going to be brutal. I don't care how well prepared you are, it's going to be brutal. We see a lot of kids. So a good friend of mine, he said, he says, I was super bright in high school. I went to a very high-end private school. I was the kid who I didn't have to study for math. I just knew it. And when I first got into college, it was started to get, well, wait a minute, I have to pay attention. He said, and it caused it, and this was his words, he said, it caused me a psychological problem. He said, I began to get depressed. I began to doubt myself. He says, and it took me 2 years in the university system to kind of pull myself out and realize I had to study and I had to work. And he was down an engineering path. I really had to work at it. My whole culture I had been used to in this high-end school that was pretty intensive, that I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for this. I had never learned how to study. I had never learned how to manage my time. I had never learned how to communicate with teachers and faculty because I really had needed to, except to joke around and be buddies. I'd never really had to think through a strategy and a path of what I was doing. We see that all the time. Is it going to be true in a liberal arts path? There's so here's a quote. This is not my quote, but it said, I could pass English 101 and sociology without studying one time. No studying, all A's. I couldn't study enough to catch up on calculus and chemistry. All-nighters and still making C's. So we see that kind of thing. It depends on the path that you're going to. So how do you prepare as we look, and we talk about this a lot with our faculty that are dealing with freshmen? Because in the world of engineering, this may shock you, in the world of engineering, we don't get enough students to walk in the door to fill the needs for industry. It's 1,000% growth rate. I mean, it's incredible the demand that we have for engineers. And we would really like to take all the engineers that come in the door and keep them and get them through engineering school, because there's all these people who are our customers, the industry, who needs these people. So part of our job is, how do you take these freshmen and how do you make them survive? And some of the things that we're trying to deal with, and I would say probably most engineering schools and probably STEM schools in general are trying to deal with, are how do you teach them time management? How do you teach them to communicate? How do you teach them to think through schedules? And a lot of it is just managing their time. Boy, if you want a place that homeschoolers really can run a risk, that's it. And that's the homeschoolers we see, and the people who've kind of been in a set path, if you will. We see that's a real challenge, because time, we could do it tomorrow, maybe not. Or mom was driving it so hard, but you always got the flexibility factor there. Even if you're the mom or dad who's just, hardliner, it's different. It's different than somebody else saying, don't know, don't care, you missed it. As we will say in our courses now, I teach professionals I tend to, I will tell them, look, you're turning this in electronically. And if it comes in, at 1 minute later, I don't care if Congress has shut down the internet. It's not my fault. It's yours. It's your issue. We have reasons, there's just a logical reason. That's the way the world works. And as faculty in the university, we're not listening to the parents like you do in high school and things like that. We're not used to listening to the parents complain about things. We're listening to industry complain about things. And the industry complains because people don't deliver, they don't show up on time, they don't keep commitments, they can't meet deadlines. A lot of these common sense skills are what the industry is demanding from us. And so that's what we're measuring too. And if you don't prepare your kids, these are supposedly simple things, time management, having schedules, managing their own schedules. These should be simple things. It's not the complicated stuff that usually kills the kids. It's these basic concepts that deal with it. So anyway, I just really wanted to throw this out. This is not a doomsday thing. This is just kind of a sit back in your kid's situation. As if you've got somebody heading to college or heading to college soon, think through it. What does it look like? What did it feel like if you went to college? What did it feel like to you? What's different today? And you have to be realistic, because in all these areas that you may be more mature and you may be able to handle schedules or less, whatever, but we may have gotten to where we can do things naturally. Probably your kids don't have that. So these basic, simple skills are going to be more critical. We're actually trying to, figure out how we can help this at the university, how we can plan this. We're actually looking at some products here through Ask Dr. Callahan to help in this area too. So, but I just wanted to give you some food for the thought. We'll put all these notes out here on the Facebook channel for you to check out, just some of the stuff that we had here. So thanks a lot. Again, Cassidy will be back with you on Thursday, and till then, we'll see you next week.